What's up, good people? It's your boy Jevone. Welcome back to the Jevone Perspective. You have made it to episode 3. I'm so appreciative of everybody that's been rocking with me from the first episode. I'm grateful. The first episode, Heal to Heal So You Can Feel. The second episode, The Power of Manifestation and Prayer. And here we are today with a brand new installment to my journey. I'm hoping that I'm helping someone in some type of way. I know I'm surely helping myself heal from things that I've experienced, while also at moments laughing at our pain, because so much is going on in the world. Sometimes you just gotta laugh at some stuff that is happening to keep from crying. But again, welcome everybody to the Jevone Perspective, and I'm so glad that you're here. Let's get started. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's really close to my heart: healing from trauma and learning to love again. And listen, y'all, I gotta warn you guys, this is going to be a heavy subject, and it may trigger some feelings and emotions that you may have dealt with in your past or you're currently dealing with. So listen, take a pause, take a beat at any time you feel that it's too heavy for you, if it's bringing up feelings that you did not want to even think about. But I want you to challenge yourself to listen and to release anything that you want to get rid of, and anything that is holding you down or holding you hostage from becoming the best version of yourself. So let's get started. Healing from trauma and learning to love again. That's the title of this podcast episode. And when I say trauma, y'all, I don't mean just heartbreak from past relationships, right? I'm also talking about, the wounds that started in childhood or even in your teens. The way we were loved or not loved as kids, also shapes the way we show up in relationships as adults. Many of us know this from experiences, right? But listen, trauma isn't just rooted in childhood. It can also be rooted in intimate relationships or past intimate relationships that have left us feeling broken, unworthy, or afraid to trust again. So if you've been in a toxic or emotionally abusive relationship, or if you found yourself repeating the same painful relationship patterns, this episode is for you. Love after trauma is possible, y'all, but it requires healing. Healing is the escape, is the way out. So healing from your past so that you don't carry old wounds into new love. I know how difficult, and I know firsthand how it can feel and how it can be to open up your heart again after being hurt. It is the scariest ever, y'all. The fear of being vulnerable, the fear of the anxiety or trusting someone new, the emotional walls we build to protect ourselves. It's all real. But in this episode, I just want to guide you through the healing process step by step, so that you can move forward with confidence and to be able to create the kind of love that feels safe, fulfilling, aligned with the person that you're becoming. And listen, although I'm talking to y'all and I'm recording this podcast, I'm also talking to myself. So when I'm speaking, it also resonates with me. And I hope that it resonates with you. And I hope that you can grow from this moment and continue to go through your process, So in order to get to a place where you are starting your healing process and learning to love again although you went through trauma, you have to understand the impact of the trauma and how trauma affects us, the way that we love and the way that we interact with our friends and loved ones and partners. Trauma, whether it comes from childhood or past relationship, it really rewires the way we experience love. I would say our nervous system, I believe it starts associating love with pain, rejection, what else? Yeah, even fear. And so we develop defense mechanisms. And listen, I know some of y'all got some defense mechanisms because I do as well. I used to run. He's a runner. He's a track star. When things got a little crazy, I'm out the door. Out the door, you gotta go. So yeah, defense mechanisms, and you start to protect yourself, and sometimes without even realizing it, right? And when you think about childhood trauma, if you grew up in an environment where love was inconsistent, right, and where affection was given and taken away, you didn't know if you was going to get it or receive it, and or where you had to fight to be seen, that experience shaped the way that you view love, right? Maybe you learned that love had had to be earned. And I guess in a way of like through perfection or people pleasing. I've been there. And maybe you felt emotionally abandoned, even if you had caregivers that were physically present. Sometimes you can still feel emotionally abandoned. You have people that have parents that, financially took care of them and, were there present in that way, but emotionally they didn't have the tools to give it to their children. And as adults, those wounds don't just disappear. They show up in many ways and in ways that that you may not even realize on a daily basis how you interact with people. They show up in ways like how we attach to people and our fears of rejection, or I believe in our ability to trust again. And when you think about trauma from a intimate relationship perspective, it can also come from the people we choose to love as adults. How many people out there have felt like they picked the right person, but then they end up finding that they were that person's savior, or they tried to save them. I've been there as well. My therapist always tells me that I had this Superman complex, and she worked with me to develop skills to be able to realize when I'm doing that. Like, some people don't want to be saved. I think J. Cole said that, don't save her, she don't want to be saved. And whoever you're dating, she made me realize that wasn't my responsibility to save the world, to save that person. I had to save myself, right? And had to love on myself and give the same things that I was giving other people to myself. I felt like it was a selfless kind of love that I was giving, but it wasn't love that I was giving, right? It was my idea of what love should have been or was at the time. And love is not depleting yourself or pouring so much into other people that you have nothing left. That's not love, right? But maybe you also in this trauma throughout intimate relationships, you have experienced manipulation, emotional neglect, or gaslighting, and now you question your own judgment when it comes to love. And when we've been deeply hurt from past relationships or from our childhood, we often build emotional walls, y'all, to protect ourselves. How many of y'all have walls that you guys are still trying to figure out how to knock down and how to get over in one situation that the next continues to build those walls up? You might knock a couple of walls down, and the next thing you know, something triggers you, and the next thing you know, your walls are back up, but those same walls that keep, pain, keep out pain, it's the same walls that keep love out. Understand what I'm saying? The same walls that keep out pain also keep out love. Let that resonate. So healing to me means, learning to let those walls down slowly, carefully, but intentionally. It is possible, y'all. It is possible to let those walls down and to learn to love again. But it starts with loving yourself, choosing yourself. I'm so thankful that I've decided to take this journey to choose myself. Even when at times I felt like I was in my past growing up, I felt like I was always choosing myself, but I really wasn't, right? So slowly but carefully, but be intentional when choosing yourself and knocking these walls down that you've been having up for years. And when you think about your past relationships and other people that have hurt you in your past, those people have gone on and are living their lives. Some are married now, some are in other relationships, whatever. It doesn't even matter what they're doing for real. But what I'm trying to say is that people move on and we're left with the baggage and we're stuck. Don't give people the satisfaction to see your downfall, to see you hurting, to see you broken and not being able to rise again. People thrive off of that. And again, this is not about other people, but at the same time, we ain't letting nobody see us sweat. Take care of your mental health and your well-being. You deserve that for you, right? You deserve that for you. I think it's important that I acknowledge this, that you have to validate your pain. You have to acknowledge and validate your pain. And healing starts with acknowledgement. You can't move forward if you're still pretending your past didn't affect you. Like, oh, that didn't bother me. Oh, I'm on to the next one. I'm doing my thing. I don't care about that person the whole time. At night, you're by yourself in tears. You can't stop talking about this person. You're not eating. You're not sleeping, but you good though. You got to stop pretending. We have to stop pretending that things do not affect us. Whether your wounds come from childhood or your past relationships, you have to give yourself permission to grieve. Come on, somebody. Grieving is not just for people that have passed on. And my therapist made me realize this, that grieving is a part of the process. In my past relationships, I didn't even know there was a grieving part. I thought, like, you move on, life goes on, you drop a couple tears, you look at pictures, you end up ripping them up, throw them away, whatever you do to get over. That's your grieving process, and you're allowed to go through that grieving process, because once you do, you'll be able to bury the pain, heal from the pain, but you'll be able to bury it once you heal from it and move forward, lay it to rest. I believe that ignoring your pain doesn't make it go away. It just continues to fester and affect you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. It doesn't just go away, y'all. And listen, I know that it's tempting to just move forward without processing nothing. Like, I ain't got to deal with it. I'm going to distract myself. I'm going out to the club. I'm partying. I'm with friends. I'm eating, whatever you're doing, distracting yourself, or even dating somebody else right after a breakup to get over that individual. You allow yourself to almost intoxicate yourself with misery and pain and grief. Because you're not processing it thoroughly. You distract yourself. You jump into, like I said, other relationships it's like a convenience almost to jump into another relationship as if you're just fine. But the truth is, if you do not heal, the past will continue to show up in your relationships over and over again until you face it. You got to face that You got to face it. Can I cuss on here? This is my podcast. You got to face that shit. You got to face that shit full-fledged, straight up in your face. I'm dealing with this. This is my issue. I'm going to stand on it, and I'm going to move forward in my life because I deserve it. I deserve it. You deserve it. And as you start, dealing with your traumas and healing, you'll notice that you'll start rebuilding your self-worth and your confidence, right? And after trauma, it's not easy, to feel like you're confident again. You may not feel like you're enough. You may feel broken or too broken to love again. But let me remind you, you are not broken. You are healing. And healing doesn't mean going back to who you were before. It simply means, for me, becoming even stronger, becoming wiser, more self-aware, and becoming the best version of yourself. If your trauma came from your past relationship, you might internalize and believe that you're hard to love, right? Or you're not worthy of real commitment. But those beliefs are not the truth. They are the results of your past wounds, y'all. You are worthy of love simply because you exist. Okay? My brothers and my sisters, you are worthy just for your existence on this earth. You deserve to be loved and to love yourself and be loved by others. But you have to recondition your mind. We have to recondition our mind. I'm doing it on a daily basis. After being in therapy for a year, I actually have a therapy session tomorrow. But after acknowledging your pain, and even after the trauma and rebuilding your self-confidence, you're going to question yourself. You're going to say, you may look in the mirror and see no changes, but you get back in that gym, you start writing, you start running, whatever you do to start your healing process, you do that. You'll start to see those subtle changes. You'll start to see that you're not reacting the way that you used to react. Rebuilding starts with self acceptance, and it starts with self-talk. Pay attention to the way that you speak to yourself. If you catch yourself overthinking all the time and saying, I'm not good enough, pause that, pause it, and reframe it. I always say to myself, I'm learning and I'm growing. I am worthy of love and respect. So your self-talks matter more than you really realize. So continue to tell yourself, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm worthy of love, and I'm worthy of respect. Rewire, recondition your mind. And like I mentioned in my first podcast episode, Heal the Heal So You Can Feel, I talked about setting boundaries. That's a major part of self-worth and getting to that space where you are creating those boundaries so that way you respect yourself and you let other people know that you also respect yourself and you're not going to just walk all over me and disrespect me and hurt me because you've grown from that. So if your past relationships made you feel drained, disrespected, undervalued, it's time to ask yourself, where do I need stronger boundaries? Healing means choosing yourself without guilt. I mentioned that in my first podcast. Heal so that you can feel better about yourself and the choices that you make without feeling guilty for making those choices. And listen, if this is heavy for y'all, take a beat, take a pause, come back to my podcast. That's okay. Rewind if you need to. Listen to this when it's convenient for you and when you're in the right place to receive it, right? I want to remind you guys that you don't have to hear all of this right now if it's too much. But if you're still here, that means you're willing to continue to do the work right now and you're willing to, just deal with what you're feeling with right in this moment. So kudos to you. Let's hand clap for that. Hand clap for that. One thing that my therapist talks about often is letting go of fear and old patterns. One of the hardest parts of healing is learning to trust again. When I tell you in my past relationships, I thought that trust came easy. Like, somebody show you, who they are. You just trust them automatically. I know some people give 100% of trust as soon as they meet a person. Like they let them in their house, that people let them buy a car. They trust them with money. I grew to be the type of person that you're going to earn trust from me. I'm not just going to give it to any and everybody. You're going to earn that, and not through tests or anything like that. I used to do that. I'm going to do a little test to see if I can trust a person, friends and everybody. But I realized that people will eventually reveal who they really are. You don't have to do any test. They're going to reveal who they really are. So don't be in your head trying to test people, trying to do all these things because you're self-sabotaging your own mind. You have to also trust yourself. When you've been hurt before, it's easy to second guess your intuition, to wonder, will I make the same mistake again? Can I trust my own judgment again? The answer simply is yes, you can. You can trust your own judgment again, but you have to go through the healing process. You have to do the work. You're becoming more self-aware. And self-awareness is what helps you break down your old patterns. So picture this. Instead of assuming that love always hurts, just ask yourself, what if love could feel safe? What if love could feel like peace? It could be peaceful, right? What if love didn't have to be a struggle? Listen, y'all, your past does not define your future. Okay? Just because you've been hurt before doesn't mean, you will be hurt again. It may happen, right? It may happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will. But you have to, you be intentional about choosing love that aligns with your healing, not your past wounds. Come on, somebody. That was a word. Choose love that aligns with your healing, not with your past wounds. How many of us are attracting the same type of situations, the same type of people, the same type of things, because we're aligning our healing with those past wounds that we've created or that others have created for us in our past. They're holding us hostage. You're literally doing 25 years to life because we're not being intentional about our healing. Are you willing? Ask yourself, are you willing to do a hard life or live a hard life Are you willing to live that because of past issues and things that have happened? Are you willing to live that? I don't think so. I think you want to be free, and I think that's why you're here today. You want to be free. You want to move on. You want to live your life, and you want to be happy again. You want to smile again. You want to do the things that bring you joy again. And guess what? I'm here to tell you, you will. So we're going to take a pause. Let's take a deep breath together. You are healing. You are learning. You are growing. And you are worthy of love. Take another breath. And I know this journey is not easy, but I want you to remember this. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You don't. Just focus on your next step, one foot in front of the other. And whether it's, setting a boundary, practicing self-love, or simply allowing yourself to feel, it all matters, y'all. It all matters. I challenge everybody that listened today. I challenge you to face your fears head on. And even when it gets tough, even when you feel like throwing in the towel, remember why you started. Remember why you started. You are stronger than what you think you are. Those people that broke you down and told you you weren't shit, that told you you weren't nothing, guess what? That says more about them than it does about you. You've been mentally abused, you've been physically abused, and you still have love to give. That says so much about you. I've been through some stuff in my life, and I'll share something with you guys, and I'll be vulnerable. From early on in my childhood, I remember the day that I was taken away from my mother, ripped out of my mother's hands. I remember feeling like it was the lowest point in my life. And I remember going into foster care for a little bit and feeling like I was abandoned. My mother was no longer around. My mother openly talks about her addiction. She's been sober 21 years. Shout out to my mom. I love you dearly. She shares her story, so that's why I'm willing to and allowed to share it. But from that moment on, I felt lost until I was found again. And I'm so grateful that I was raised by a beautiful woman and man that my great aunt and I, in hindsight, I think back of all the things I've experienced, and I never thought that I would feel safe again. I never thought I would feel loved again. But at the tender age of 7, 8 years old, love entered my life again. My great aunt and her husband, my stepdad, I call them mom and dad, Janie and Kevin. Oh my God, Kevin has passed on my stepfather. My dad, forget stepfather, that's my dad. I have his last name. And my great aunt, who I, like I said, call mom, they showed me what love was again. And I'm so grateful to this day that I have a close connection and relationship with my mother. My mother is now actually helping other people get sober, other women and men. She's in ministry. Her and my stepfather, my stepfather actually has a radio show, and they are doing God's work and they're giving back. But let me tell you something, even through that, even through heartbreak in my intimate relationships where I gave myself to people, I've been cheated on, lied on, mentally abused. And even after being hurt myself, I found myself doing the abuse as well. Like in a way of like protection. Like I was defensive. So it turned into, what I look back on in hindsight, it was also abuse too, because I was abusing myself, but I was showing up in the relationship not fully healed. And instead of admitting that I had some triggers, I would lash out at somebody like gaslighting me. I would lash out at certain things that people did to me. Not in a physical sense, but with my mouth. Mouth was slick if I felt disrespected. But I got to a point in my life where I felt like I couldn't fight with my words anymore. I couldn't fight with my words anymore in a negative way. I had to fight with showing up and holding myself accountable, and also holding other people accountable for how they treat me. I didn't give up on myself, and when I felt like I did, God was always on my side protecting me. I'm being vulnerable only because I know that there's somebody out there right now questioning their life, questioning their thoughts, questioning their self-worth. I'm telling you as a true testament that you're worthy. You are worthy more than anything. And when people look at me now and they see me, I'm smiling, they see all the things that I've had and the accomplishments that I've made for myself, I can only say about the grace of God that I'm still here today, that I'm still willing to encourage other people through my journey. I'm willing to smile again through the adversity, through the pain that I've encountered, through relationships, through childhood. I'm showing up for myself today, and I want you to do the same. You deserve it. Once again, you deserve it, and it's going to happen for you. Okay? So if this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. I know there's an option to leave comments. Your calls, your texts are appreciated. Share your story. Share your story with someone, whether it be a close friend that you can trust, a therapist. Open your journals again, or get a journal if you don't have one. Let's continue this conversation, continue to connect, and continue to grow. I have plenty of resources that if you reach out to me, I will be willing to share with you. I am in behavioral health, so I'm connected to a lot of social workers, a lot of therapists, a lot of mental health programs and substance abuse programs. Also, at one point, I was leading the 988. I was one of the leaders of the 988 grant that we received in Baltimore City. But this number is a crisis hotline. If you are dealing with mental health, a mental health crisis, substance abuse crisis, 988 is a number that you can call that will connect you with a provider that will give you the resources that you need. So when you call 988, you will get the help that you need. So thank you once again. Once again, continue your healing journey. You deserve it. You're not alone. Love is possible, y'all. Love is possible, and it starts with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for loving on me and showing me love through my podcast. Until next time, keep healing, keep growing, and keep believing in love. It's your boy Jevone, and I'm out. Peace.